hit me like a ton of bricks. It was Thanksgiving last year. It wasn't the Bears were humiliated on national TV. It was the sight of us sitting around the table. Jill's father had passed away 11 months prior. Jill's mom just weeks earlier. My dad, though he was still living, was in his memory care unit. He passed away just about a month ago. I looked around the table, my wife, her sister Heidi, and our children, and suddenly it hit me. I was the oldest one there, the village elder, not the village idiot, as my son suggested. Thank you, son. But our parents were nearly all gone. Losing someone you love is always hard, but in or near retirement, it brings challenges no one really warns you about. The sadness feels different, the responsibilities pile up, and suddenly you're making choices you never expected to face. Many of you have shared with me your own stories about this, and today I want to talk about three big things: the deep shock of losing someone, the tough job of sorting through their things, and how to move forward without feeling guilty. Thanks for stopping by the Retirement Guy channel. I'm Daryl Rosen. My firm, Securement Wealth, helps people plan for and hopefully enjoy retirement. Hopefully. And here's the thing. I want to be happy in retirement. If my journey helps your journey, then maybe we'll all do better. If you've been through this, you know it's not just about saying goodbye to a person. It's about saying goodbye to a lifetime of memories. And that's something we don't talk about enough. Most of us assume that by the time we reach retirement, we'll be prepared for loss. But the truth is, age doesn't make grief any easier. In many ways, it makes it harder. For me, even though I'm not yet 59 years of age, sitting at that Thanksgiving table was incredible without the generation before me. It made something painfully clear, like I'm next. I felt like a clock had started ticking, a silent reminder that the roles in my family have shifted. Losing your parents isn't just about missing them. It's about realizing that you're now the oldest generation. That safety net we think of, we're accustomed to, is gone. The people who were always there, who held the history of your family, they're no longer a call away. And as one commenter put it, my last living parent, my mother, died of cancer last year. It's been so hard adjusting, even as an adult. You never really expect to feel this lost. Here's another similar sentiment. I was so fortunate that when my 81-year-old dad passed, I had time with him. But now, even years later, I still feel like an orphan at 63. Everything from daily routines to future plans suddenly shift. It's not just the big moments that hurt, it's all the little ones, the morning coffee conversations, the shared inside jokes, the way they always knew what you were thinking without you having to say a word. Here's another comment. My mom died at 94. Her whole life she said, I'm ready to go. But I wasn't ready. I thought I would be, but I wasn't. And now every time I go to pick up the phone to call her, I have to remind myself she's not there anymore. This is what makes loss and retirement so difficult. You've spent decades living life with this person, and when they're gone, it's not just about missing them, it's about figuring out who you are without them. My wife Jill longs for her mother. They used to chat every evening after I went to sleep early, and not at 8 p.m. as some have suggested. It's a tremendous void for Jill that will take a lot of time to get over. After the funeral, a new kind of grief sets in. The quiet, aching grief of sorting through all of their belongings. Suddenly, every object feels like a question. Should I keep this? Should I let it go? If I do, am I erasing them? With my dad, it was different. He was in a memory care unit, and he never owned much to begin with in the way of possession. Each of my siblings kept a few keepsakes, but the rest, it went to Goodwill. I hired movers for $300 to haul away what remained, the last physical traces of his life. It felt cold, transactional, like wiping a slate clean when I wasn't ready for it to be clean. But it had to be done. Now I'm watching Jill go through the same thing, only this time it's different. This weekend at her childhood home, one of the final steps before the house is sold is an estate sale. The house is just 5 minutes away, and when I drove by there yesterday just to take a look, there was a line of people out the door waiting to pick through what's left. I felt sick watching it. Soon the house will belong to someone else, and every time we drive by, it'll be a reminder not just to what was lost, but how quickly a lifetime of memories can be reduced to price tags and moving trucks. Here's a really heartbreaking comment I received about parents' possessions and clearing out their house. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every item had a story, and I felt like I was erasing them piece by piece. And that's what makes this process so painful. It's not just stuff, it's a lifetime of memories. The coffee mug they used every morning, the old coat still hanging by the door, the handwritten notes tucked away in the drawers. It's not just emotional, it can be really overwhelming. Here's another viewer. I have stress about this because we have collections of antiques, furniture, and things passed down for generations. I don't know what to do with it all, and my kids don't want it. This is something a lot of people don't realize. What meant everything to them might not mean the same to the next generation. And that really can be heartbreaking. One way to approach this is by asking yourself, what's truly meaningful? I mean, some people find it helpful to take photos of sentimental items before letting them go. A viewer said to me, you can't hold on to everything, but you can hold on to the memories, and started taking photos of sentimental things before letting them go. It helped more than I expected. For others, it's about finding new homes for cherished belongings, giving them to someone who will appreciate them rather than letting them collect dust in storage. But here's the most important thing, and this is a sentiment we're trying to keep front and center. You're not throwing away the person. Letting go of their things doesn't mean letting go of them. Grief is heavy, not just because of the loss itself, but because of everything that comes along with it, the guilt, the doubt, the endless replaying of moments in your mind. Did I do enough? Should I have spent more time? Could I have handled things differently? Grief doesn't just bring sadness, it brings self-judgment. This is something I'm really struggling with myself. My dad had dementia, and if you ask my wife, my sons, my closest friends, they would probably tell you I did everything I could. I mean, I visited him often, I handled all of his affairs, I was there, but I don't feel like I did enough. It was so painful to watch him disappear right in front of me, to see the man I knew, the strong man, fade away, so my visits were short. I told myself it was better that way, for him, for me, but now I wonder, could I have done more? It was better for me, but was it better for him? This is what grief does. It turns our love into guilt. It makes us focus on what we didn't do rather than what we did. It makes us believe that moving forward means leaving them behind, but that's just not true. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean we stop loving them. It just means we find a way to carry them differently. Grief is the price we pay for love. So how do we do that? How do we handle grief instead of letting it handle us? Here are a few things Jill and I are trying to do. There's no right way to grieve. Some days you'll feel okay, some days you won't. Like this book, it's okay that you're not okay. The author suggests a society often misunderstands grief, pushes this toxic positivity and unrealistic expectations on those who are truly grieving. For us, there are certain events we haven't attended in the last several months because we don't want to make small talk. We don't want to talk about silly stuff while we're deeply hurting inside. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, just last week, someone said, come on out, you'll feel better. Well-intentioned and possibly correct, but we just didn't want that. Healing is not a straight line. It comes in waves, sometimes when you least expect it. The goal isn't to get over it. The goal is to learn how to live with it. Say their name. Keep their presence alive in your life. Mitch Albom, in The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, wrote, death doesn't just take someone, it misses someone else. And in the small distance between being taken and being left, lives are changed. That space, the place where their absence is felt, is where we can keep them alive through our memories. I joke about my father all the time, about his exploits in the military, how his service time seemed to be centered around playing basketball and chasing women. We laugh because there really is no other choice. Maybe it's getting together on their birthday, like we're going to do later this month to celebrate Jill's father. Maybe it's cooking their favorite meal. Maybe it's just taking a quiet moment to remember them. We hold on to objects, routines, and places because they remind us of what we've lost, and that's okay. The key is finding ways to honor them without letting grief consume us. Jill's honoring her parents with 14,000 pictures of them in the house. I'm keeping my mouth shut on that one. We all did the best we could with what we had. And if we could go back, maybe we'd do things differently, but that's because love doesn't end. It grows even after they're gone. As Khalil Gibran wrote in The Prophet, when you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. We grieve deeply because we loved deeply, and that's something to hold on to, not something to feel guilty about. Grief never really goes away, but over time it softens. It becomes something we can carry, not something that carries us. And when we start to move forward, we realize we're not leaving them behind. We're bringing them with us in a different way. So losing a loved one as you near retirement or in retirement is one of the hardest things to go through, and yet it's something so many of us face. If you've been through this, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What was the hardest part for you? What helped you move forward? What helped you with the guilt? And if this video helped you, consider subscribing, and I'll be sharing more real conversations about retirement, about life changes, and the things nobody prepares us for in future videos. Thanks for watching.